Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished delegates. My theme is actually precisely that the work for human rights on local level is to bring human rights home. Of course, the international standards of human rights are drafted by governments and ratified by national parliaments, but the real implementation in many instances will have to be done by local officials and local politicians. I think we all agree that there are some very basic human rights aspects in the work of the local politicians and the local assemblies, and we wouldn't have a full implementation of human rights without complete participation also on the local level. And you have here taken decisions that the implementation of human rights actually has to be done on all levels in the member states, and of course not least the local and regional level. I have pointed out several times some of the issues where human rights really are at stake on the local level, relating to health care, to education, child protection, housing, water supply, environment, policing, and of course also in many cases taxation. These matters are really human rights matters, and they touch on not least social rights directly. I think we all understand that the proximity between the politicians on local level and the people living in those areas is a great advantage actually when it comes to implementation of human rights. Local decision makers are, by the very nature of the situation, closer to the people, and they are almost always more aware of the real problems also when it comes to human rights in their area. We know one another on the local and regional level. However, there is a problem there, and that is that the local regional authorities today very often lack sufficient resources in order to implement the programs on human rights that they would like to make reality. And I think that is a problem that this Congress should discuss in some depth. Of course, this Congress has already taken up the human rights challenge very seriously. I was myself in October 2008 in Stockholm at a conference organized by the Congress, where we tried together to work out an agenda on what could be done on local and regional level when it comes to implementation of human rights. And this agenda highlighted the importance of awareness-raising campaigns, local action plans, the establishment of local or regional ombudsmen for promotion of human rights, monitoring in general about the implementation of human rights, training of local politicians and staff at the local authorities about their responsibilities and possibilities when it comes to human rights. The resolution and recommendation adopted last year by this Congress on the role of local and regional authorities in implementing human rights, I think, constitute a milestone in this regard. This Congress has made it very clear that the responsibility for protecting human rights must be shared by also the local authorities. The local level involvement in human rights is now also more visible in Europe, and I've seen that when traveling to the various member states in recent couple of years. In Austria, to take one example, provincial governments have established a network of human rights coordinators who function as a sort of sounding board for the central authorities when it comes to them drafting submissions to the international human rights mechanisms. An interesting initiative was developed by the city of Graz, in Austria again, which established a human rights council at the local level, which means that the city regulations and activities can be scrutinized, in particular when it comes to human rights, by this very body. I know that the city in Nuremberg, Germany, also has adopted a strong, direct human rights approach, and I hear that Utrecht in the Netherlands is in the process of doing something similar. As you know, the problems relating to Roma and the discrimination of Roma is a major concern for the Council of Europe as a whole. And there again, I believe that the municipalities can play an absolutely decisive role in order to protect the human rights of these people. I think there it's particularly important to remember that we should try always to involve the Roma themselves when we discuss plans and discuss how the plans could be implemented. In Slovenia, I have understood that there is a system where in each municipality where there is a significant number of Roma, that they have a reserved seat in the local assembly. And there are about 21, 22 such municipalities in Slovenia, and I've seen myself how effective that instrument has been in order to raise the concerns of the Roma and definitely improve the situation when it comes to their human rights. I believe also that the local authorities have a special role in connection with promoting social cohesion and a dialogue between different communities and to protect the different communities from discrimination. The local reach of anti-discrimination bodies is important, and I've noticed that in Netherlands and in the Flemish part of Belgium, local non-discrimination offices have been set up in recent times, and they are then entitled to receive complaints. Again, an interesting initiative. Municipalities can also play an important role in ensuring that minority groups and associations of them can fully exercise the right of freedom of assembly and freedom of association. And there I think that the recommendations 2007 of this Congress on freedom of assembly and of association of what we call the LGBT groups, lesbians, gays, bisexuals and transgender persons, is a step in the right direction. So it is important that human rights are used as guiding principles, and I think that's particularly important now in the period of economic contraction. We still have economic problems, and there is a risk, of course, that the more poor people, the less wealthy, will suffer most from the austerity budgets, the budget cuts that we are now faced with. I'm thinking about, in particular, the elderly, persons with disabilities, homeless people, and migrants. And we know also that women and children are very often deeply affected during a period of economic crisis. There, we would like to promote a discussion about what we call human rights budgeting. I think that could be an interesting instrument and a way of pursuing a discussion which would protect human rights when there is a contraction in the budgets, and would help the elected participants to take decisions which, as much as possible, would avoid discrimination and putting the more vulnerable groups in society at risk, to allocate resources in a non-discriminatory manner. So that type of budget analysis have been tried when it comes to gender equality, but not so much actually when it comes to other parts of the human rights package. I know that there has been quite successful discussions on gender budgeting, for instance, in Berlin and in Basel in Switzerland. But I believe that there are experiences here which could be spread and discussed in order to give further protection to human rights during this period of economic crisis, not least. So in sum, human rights approach at the local level can contribute to empower patients, pupils, the elderly, the homeless, immigrants, many others, to claim their rights and thereby, of course, improve their own situation. And this, of course, is also an aspect of good governance. Indeed, we now see there is an increasing momentum for adopting rights-based approach also on local level. This Congress has put this at the heart of its agenda, which I think should be appreciated by all other parts of the Council of Europe, and I think it is important in substance as well. The quality of life of residents can be substantially improved, I would say, when human rights principles guide governance. And I really hope that local politicians and public officials in Europe now seize the opportunity to bring human rights home. And we are absolutely prepared and interested in cooperation when it comes to this. Thank you.